Hi everyone and welcome to Faewood. So I'm really excited today because I was approached by Lumisonata, who's a company that creates fibre optic fabric, and they offered to send me some fabric if I make a video. Now they're not sponsoring this video, so I can do and make and say whatever I like, which I'm really excited about. So of course, me being me, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna make some fairy wings. Now I am both equally excited and intimidated by the fabric, I won't lie. And it's not like I haven't worked with fibre optics before, so I'm not really sure why I'm feeling this way. I think it's because I have been excited to try fibre optic fabric for the longest time. People who know me well will know that that's true. In fact, I'm thinking of Jen in particular because I'm pretty sure like years ago I was like excitedly showing her pictures of dresses lighting up because they were made of fibre optic fabric. So it's a dream of mine to be able to actually use it, and so to have this fabric to use is, yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, and I really just want to do justice to the fabric. So anyway, that being said, I thought, okay, I want to make a pair of fairy wings. What type of wings do I want to make? And the ones that keep coming to mind are, has anyone been watching Carnival Row? And I don't know if I've mentioned it, I know I've mentioned it to my members, but that I wanted to make a pair of wings from Carnival Row. And I know everyone's made like wings from that TV series, so I'm not the first person coming to the party saying I'm inspired by those wings. But I kind of want to make the wings from that scene. I don't even know if I can actually show you what scene I'm talking about without being demonetized on YouTube. So they light up basically. If anyone's watched it, you know what I'm talking about. You know the scene, right? I was like mesmerized. I wasn't even looking at what was happening at the time, except I was like, oh my God, those wings look amazing when they light up like that. How on earth could I make wings that light up in that same way? And I've been racking my brain to think about how I could do it. And I don't know if this is going to be the answer to it or not, but I think I'm going to give it a try. If nothing else, there'll be wings that are inspired by Carnival Row. If they don't look like those wings from the scene, we'll do what we can.
The fabric comes in 5 different colours, but I went with white, and it retails for $135 USD per metre.
Alrighty, so anyway, without further ado, let's get started and have a look at this fabric. So I've pulled out my fibre optics from the parcel, and it looks like it comes with these little battery packs, and I've got 4 of these. They've given me 4 meters worth of this fabric, so I presume that per meter of fabric they give people 1 of these battery packs to charge it up. And then it seems like that connects into this string of lights. There's like these little LED lights, and each of them have a little screw, so it looks like that will screw into the actual fabric. So it looks like it'll be quite a nifty little system. And I was reading, it looks like there's an app that you can use that helps you control the colours. So that's really fun. I can't wait to see what different colours this can do, because I feel like that's where these might be pretty special looking wings if we can put some really cool programmed colour in here. So we'll see what that looks like. Now you do have to be really careful with the fabric, as you guys will have seen when I've done fibre optic stuff before. Fibre optics are very sensitive, very fragile, so you want to be really careful. And if you guys remember my videos where I've made wings before with fibre optics, heat is also something you have to be very careful of. The glue that you use can often have a bit of heat to it, and that can degrade the fibre optics as well. And that's where you get like light bleed, and sometimes light bleed is good, and as you guys will also probably remember, sometimes light bleed is bad. My other concern with this fabric is the fact that when you're looking at it, you know, in the daytime, it's not the prettiest of fabrics. It's just very plain, very white, kind of utilitarian looking. So my hope is that I can cover it in some see-through sorts of fabric. I'm not exactly sure which ones I'll use at this point. I need something that won't obscure the light too much, but that in the daytime you'll look at the wings and they'll look just as pretty.
The first step was to find a reference picture that I could use to get the image of the wings, and this one was great, and I just played around with the contrast so I could really see the markings of the wings.
Come on, printer. Can it do it? I've got like very, very little ink left.
Now, it didn't have as much contrast as I wanted, so I decided to print it out and then go over all the lines with a fine tip pen, and then I could scan it back in and print it to the size that I want. I used Photoshop, but you could use other software. There's free software out there that you can use to edit things. And then I used Adobe Acrobat to actually print it because it has a poster tile option, so you can print it to the exact size that you want in separate pieces of A4 paper. So I'm in my bedroom. On the floor in a corner because it's a little bit darker in here than elsewhere. It's not pitch black though, which is making it a little bit tricky. I'm here looking at my fabric and I'm trying to work out firstly how many layers I want. If you look at this is one layer of the fabric. Obviously it's not pitch black, so it's not looking super bright. And then I've layered it here. So you can see it's much more impactful when it's layered. And I think for wings, it's going to look better. This is actually 3 layers. I've just rolled it up. It then means there's more of these fibers going through if I've got more layers. Also, there does seem to be a side that's a little bit more dull as far as the light, and then one that's brighter. And you can only really tell that going into the dark and seeing. So definitely recommend doing that and just having a look at which side of the fabric you want to use if you're using it. On top of that, I need to work out how much I can layer this with fabric because, it's pretty with the lights, but when the lights are off and it's daylight, this is not a pretty fabric, if I'm honest. And so it needs some help. I think I've got a few kind of translucent type of fabrics, which don't obscure the light. So this one is really nice and it's got that green flash which the wings from Carnival Row in that scene have definitely this sort of beautiful azure colour, and I think this could do it. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but one of my cats wants to come in the bedroom. I had to lock the door because last time I tried to do this, I had my 2 young cats in and of course they wanted to play with the fabric, and that is the last thing I want because, they will probably damage it. Now, I also have this. I love this stuff. It's so pretty. Now, this is like a netting. This one covers it up a fair bit more, I feel. I sort of want to see it at night, though, because, again, I'm just like, maybe it wouldn't make a difference if it was at night. I might still have to do this in pitch black, but I love it. And I wanted both layers because I just think it looks so pretty. So I've been trying to work out how best to cut these wings out. You've got to be really careful with the fabric because you can see there's bundles of fibre optics and they've got them in lots of little bundles. You could consider it like a rectangle shape really, that these fibres will go all the way down. You do need to think about, do you need more or less than the bundle? And in which case, I assume I'll have to take off this end part and try and heat shrink it back together with its little attachment thing. There's a little screw part on here, which I would guess that you can heat shrink back onto it. I haven't actually had to do that for these wings so far, which is actually not even planned, to be honest. I thought I might have to. So that's one way you could sort of go about not having to rebundle, I guess, is planning it out per thickness. Like either do it thin like this, which works for these wings that I'm doing, or do it double thickness so that, you can keep those fibres into those neat little bundles. With the cutting as well, you do need to be careful about how you cut your piece of fabric, because if I was to cut a curve, say in here, then these fibre optics aren't going to go all the way to the end. They're going to stop at the cut. So consider where the fibre optics are basically to work out
how to do the shape. Yeah, I've got to like think about how to then pull the fabric in. So I might be able to sort of gather in the fabric in those little sections is what I'm leaning towards, I think, and hoping that I can do that in such a way that's neat enough that it looks okay. I have decided to do 3 layers because the more I looked at it, the more I realized you could see all 3. It was translucent enough. I think 4 would be pushing it, and I think most people probably do 2, you know, a back and a front. I'm not most people. I figure if I'm going to do it, I'll try and do it as good as I can. So I think I'm going to go 3 because let's get the bang for our buck. So because my wings were a bit thinner than these bundles of fibres, I pulled off the existing, it's like a heat shrink that they use to connect everything together, pull the string off, and then pry apart all the fibres, and then you can rebundle them how you need them. I've used a little bit of sticky tape to just hold the fibres while I cut them. And then you just want to heat the ends just to bind them all together, and you can use a lighter for that, but I'm using this wood burner tool. It's got a flat attachment on it, and I just figured that was perfect because you do want to sort of flatten all the ends together, and it just helps stick them all together basically. And then I put the thread back on. That just helped give some grab when you're putting the little screw end back on. It sort of clips over those melted ends, and it just needs something to sort of grab onto. I did add a touch of glue just in case, and then I had some heat shrink myself that I put back on. I used a little bit of masking tape just to protect the fibres, because when you use your heat gun it can damage those fibres, and I find just a bit of masking tape stops that from happening. I had all my pieces worked out. I actually worked out which was the brighter side of each one and then bundled them together so that they were evenly distributed. I made myself a little makeshift light box by just pulling out one of the drawers from my shelves and putting this photography light underneath it, because I'm trying to trace through and it's difficult to see through the layers of everything. Not bad. Works. So I started drawing the design of the wings onto the fabric using a Sharpie. And then I tested what the fabric would look like at night, just with both of the organza and the netting, to make sure I liked the way it looked. And I really loved it, so I decided to go with that. I used a spray adhesive first just to tack the fabric on, and then I sewed around all of it. Now on one side of the wings I've got the 2 layers of fabric, and on the other I've got 1, because if you remember I wanted 3 layers of the fibre optic fabric all up for each wing. And then I matched the back and the front together, right sides together, and sewed around the edge of the wing, but I didn't sew all the way down. I left a little opening at the bottom where I will be able to put the wire in, and I did trim the edge as well, leaving about 1/2 centimetre, and did a zigzag stitch to stop any fraying. Now it was a little bit tricky to pull it inside out, as you can see. I did use a paintbrush as well just to get the end out. It took a little manoeuvring. And then once that was done, I did a top stitch to really flatten the wings. Alright, so this is where we're at. I've sewn the fabric over the top of the fibre optic fabric, so I've got a sheer organza and the netted fabric with the metallic thread going through it, and I've just sewn it so that I keep all the fibre optics intact. So I had to leave a little bit of extra fabric in certain spots, so that just working out where those fibres would go and making sure I don't cut anything that would stop the light getting all the way through the wing basically, which did mean I had to leave a bit of extra fabric because of the organic shape of the wing, and I didn't want to compromise on the shape because I'm trying to make the wing from, you know, the show, so I had to keep it the same. But it was a little tricky because I had to pull it inside out. I'm hoping I didn't damage the fibres too much, but I do have 3 layers of fibre optics in there, so if some of them, you know, were slightly damaged here or there, I'm not too concerned about it. And I've left the back side open because I'm going to put some wire in there as the structure, but I really wanted to sew this all together first. And then I did a top stitch over the top as well, just to give it a crisper edge. I don't know, it's not as flat, and you can't iron it, obviously. You can't do super glue, you can't do any kind of glue that might have heat or any other heat. Don't do it. They're not your friend when it comes to fibres. Fibre optics are quite fragile, so yeah, it can be tricky. I have had a little issue where, I don't know if you can see that, so a couple of the fibres have come out, I think when I was trying to pull it inside out of itself, so sadly we've had some sacrificial fibres. Nothing much I can do about that now. I might be able to stuff them back into the wing inside there, but hopefully I don't notice it too much. I'll have to see when the lights are out what we're working with at this point, whether I've damaged it or what have you. But yeah, I don't know. I was really thinking of all the different ways I could possibly make them, and I feel like this was the right way to go, but I hope to God I haven't wrecked the fibres, but we shall see. I wanted the lines to really pop, so I decided to go over all of them with this Lumiere fabric paint. It took a little while, but I think it was worth it. So I'm messing around with this at the moment. I was a bit unsure about doing this, to be honest. It was a bit unnerving, but what I wanted to do was play around with cutting out some of the bits of fabric so that more light would come through. I've put a bit of glitter, well, I've put nail polish. It's gel nail polish, so I have to use the little light to, you know, bake it or whatever you call it. And I think it's working pretty well. Like, I quite like that. I've got the lights on at the moment so I can see where the light's coming out of. And I've also, so you guys, if you've seen me do wings before, you've seen me like sand, you know, bits of the fibres to get more light out of certain spots, and it really helps you be able to put the light where you want it. Now it's a bit hard with this fabric because it's inside fabric, so what I'm doing instead is just like, I've got this little awl, if you can see it. I've got the lights out, so it's a little bit dark, so I can see the lights, but I've got this little awl, and I'm just like, you know, picking a spot and like scratching it just to kind of bring the light out, and it is working. Like, you do have to kind of press quite firm. These ones I've done it in, and you can maybe see, I don't know, can you see? I've got more light coming out of these little sections that I've cut out, and that's because I started with the awl and really kind of scratched it and stuff to make all of that light come out, because I want these parts to be super bright. Yeah, I quite like it. Like, I don't want to cut too much out because I like the netting, I like the sparkle it gives, but doing this allows me to also let some light out. And I looked at it without this like glitter nail polish that I'm putting on top. It was a little bit too plain for me when you compare it to the fabric. Like, the fabric's all pretty and sparkly and stuff. And then when you looked at the cutout part, it was just plain white. So I have put the glitter over it, and I like it that way. I think it looks good. I am so happy with how these are coming out. They might even be my favourite wings I've made so far. I know that's a bold claim, but I just love the way that they're looking, and I'm really glad that I did the cutout parts for the little cells of the wings here and there. It just let a lot more light through, and it gave it a really good look, and it looks, I think it's getting more similar to the wings that I'm trying to achieve from that scene. It has been a lot of work though, and I haven't shown a lot of it. I won't lie, I mean, you can imagine painting the lines on there takes a while, and even just cutting out the little cells took me a little bit of time as well. I used like gel nail polish. You don't have to do that. I just did it because I wanted to be able to bake it and it be dry. So because of my impatience and the want to be able to continue to film without waiting for glue to dry, that's why I did that. I do recommend putting some glitter on there just to give it a nice look. The glue just helps it stop fraying, so if you don't use glue, you could use like a fray check or something like that to stop it fraying. Now, I normally do the wire frames first, but I did wait till the end to put the wire frames in because I knew I wanted to sew this on the sewing machine and everything, and it would just be a little tricky if there's wire that I have to contend with. So I decided to do it that way. So we're at the wire stage now, and I'm going to use my tried and true fence wire that I always use. If you've seen any of my videos, you'll know the ones that I use. I'll put the details in the description box though, and I just get this from, you know, a hardware store. And it's just because the fence wire is like a really structural kind of wire rather than craft wire. Even if it's thick, it might not have that structural integrity to hold your wings up. Takes a little bit of time and patience to get the wire maneuvered into the right shape. I left a little bit of extra wire that I'll be able to attach the wing to the rest of the structure at the end. It doesn't have to be too perfect because you don't see the wire, and then I just use these little fabric clips to clip the fabric into place where I could then hand sew the wing shut. It's looking a little bunchy. I'm trying so hard to get all of these fibres tucked in here so that just the little plug sticks out. It's not easy, but I'm determined. I don't know if you can tell, but I've just kind of bent it in, and I'm hoping I can put a few tacking stitches and also just like close up the wing, and that will just hold it all together. But yeah, it's looking a bit of a mess right now, so we'll see how we go. So I decided to go for a U shape at the back. Doing this just means that you can then tuck it into, say, a bra or a corset or something like that. But then I have the option to still wear straps, so if you're not wearing something where you can easily tuck your wings into them, you can still attach a strap to it as well. So I figured that would be a good way to go. I started by wrapping it with some ribbon that I had, but I did end up deciding to put just some black tape around it. It's just this electrical tape that I had, mostly because I wanted it to be black. I must admit, it's not my neatest back. The wire, yeah, didn't twist around as much as I was hoping. It looks very kind of bobbly, but you don't see it in the end. I did also just put a bit of electrical tape around those plugs just to kind of neaten them a little bit. I feel like I could have done this back part a little neater, and I think what I would have done is not actually had the fibres tucked into the wings, but I would have allowed them to stick out a bit further and maybe just wrap them with electrical tape. Now, to hide all of the cords and everything, I did have to make a little pocket. I just made a really crude one, very simple, just to hide all of the mess of cords and everything. So just made a front and back, then left a little lip to allow for the wings, and
just folded the top over so I could put a ribbon in and tie it together. I legitimately love these wings more than any other wings I've made so far. I'm so stoked with how these came out. I worked out that I used about 1.5 meters, just shy of 2 meters to make these wings, but I think you could make them with just 1 meter. There are some things I would change if I did it again, but all over, I'm really happy. Now I did play around with the app a little bit just to show you guys. So you can have solid colour, you can have it cycle through the colours like I had it before. You have all these different modes that you can use as well that change the way the colour comes through. And you even have a music mode that has the lights flicker in a way that goes with the music. So that's really cool. I haven't really played with that a lot yet, but just to show you, it's quite versatile. I definitely couldn't have achieved the look that I've got with the light coming through those individual cells without this fabric. So for that, I'm really excited to try more things. So I wouldn't have actually put the plugs sticking just out of the wings if I did it again. You know, I wouldn't have tucked all of those fibres in. I think they could have a tendency to break by doing that. I've pushed the limits there. So I'd suggest maybe don't do that. Maybe just use some tape and tape them against your harness. But I think these are great. If you do want to use my code, I do have an affiliate code which is Faewood, and that gives you 10% discount on checkout if you want to give these wings a try. I'm so stoked. I do wish that the plugs were not a screw-in and they were a clip-in if I was giving feedback to the company, and I'd love them to make some clear fabrics so that we can make wings that are clear. But I hope you like that, guys. Hit subscribe if you want to see more from me, and for the rest of you, I'll see you next time in Faewood. Bye, guys.